Yeah, just talk about the track today. How did it feel? What was it like driving on the tricky triangle out there?
Well, only made a few laps, so it's obviously the rain this morning put us behind a little bit, but I think it's going to make for some really fun racing. It's a big, wide track, and from what I've watched of the past races, turn one can get pretty exciting. So I still got a long way to go to get comfortable out there, but so far all right.
After seeing the track and running it a couple times, what do you think there's a certain type of driver that would be successful on this track?
I don't know yet. I mean, obviously it's still an oval and you still have to carry speed, but they're shifting. So, and the passing I've heard is a little bit more traditional, maybe road course style passing. So perhaps maybe someone with more road racing experience would be better. I'm not sure, but at the same point, you're still carrying a lot of speed. So we definitely do a lot of racing on tracks like that.
Danica, this is your first time on this track. Can you compare it to any other tracks?
No, I think Pocono is pretty unique. They say that turn 2 is a lot like Indy. Indy's turn 1 and 3. I wouldn't say I'm there yet feeling like that, but maybe once I get up to speed a little bit better I will. But definitely unique being 3 corners. Like it says on the exit of turn 3. What turn 4?
What kind of things are you trying to take into this race that you've learned from testing? Anything?
Well, I've made 5 laps, so we're making some big swaps. We're changing some things out that we just want to get done with, so we can get along with our testing and not have to stop. It's just not. It's been a long time since we've been able to test at tracks that we're going to race on. So for us, we're just trying to figure out what works here. And I think that's something that's nice and rewarding as a team and as the drivers, is that you know that the work you're doing here today helps for the next time you're here.
Talk about where you're at so far this season. You've been racing well so far. You feel comfortable with where you are right now in the year?
We definitely have had a up and down start. Daytona was a great start to the year, and Martinsville was surely a good surprise early on. But the rest of the tracks, for the most part, the mile and a halves have been challenging. I think that Charlotte during the Coke 600 race was as good as my car's been on a mile and a half. I think we all can say the same, and we kind of know why. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing to know what's wrong. It's a good thing to know what's making it right. So we just have to keep marching in that direction, and I know everybody kind of is, but hopefully we can make some bigger gains and catch up, because we definitely have some ground to cover on the mile and a halves. But I mean, I don't think I had any expectation level necessarily coming into this year, because there was obviously at the end of last year to be able to base off of for how I did, but I knew that this was a new year with a new car, and you kind of have to take the first few races and just kind of figure out where you settle in compared to the competition.
For you say you continue to improve on the mile and a half. How nice is it to have that peace of mind to know that your crew is able to make the right adjustments and to continue to improve your car? Yeah,
it is nice to know that your crew chief can make good changes for you, but that just doesn't happen. I mean, I was even in the shop this week and talking to Tony Gibson and how he's able. He's almost laughing and saying, man, it's like these certain changes really make a difference with you, and so it's helping to learn those things, because I can make better changes for you, because I had made a comment about all the changes that he made during the Coke 600 to be really good for the car, and so that just comes with time and familiarity with each other as crew chief and driver, and understanding the language, and then understanding what feelings I need. Okay.
Just group over to Ryan, please.
Thank you.
Doesn't Victory Lane turn things around, Stuart Haas?
I sure hope so. I mean, this is a track that I enjoy. It's kind of an untalked about track because it's so unique, it's so different. It's not our typical mile and a half cookie cutter, and we spend so much time talking about our backbone in the sport, we don't necessarily talk about the irregularities. And here in a place like Indianapolis, there are tracks that really stand out. So, and there's just as many points to gain here as there is those other cookie cutter tracks. So I enjoy it. It's such a challenge to be able to get all 3 corners right for me, and then to have my crew chief get all 3 corners right, and then both of us together be able to adapt through a race and get all 3 corners right. And I just like I said, I enjoy the area. I enjoy a lot of time fishing and enjoying the outdoors up here, as well as the racetrack.
Ryan, this is your first time on this track with the Gen 6. What did you think of the track itself?
Well, I can't say as of yet that it's faster. We think we're still kind of getting the racetrack rubbered up and getting some speed out of it. It seems like the tire and track combination really likes some heat to lay some rubber to go faster. It seems like the tire likes to stick to itself better than it does the asphalt. So it's been a little bit of a process this morning of getting some rubber in the racetrack, but without a doubt, this Gen 6 car has proven to be faster every place we've gone.
Stuart Haas has struggled a little bit this year getting adapted to the Gen 6. Any ideas as to maybe why that is?
I think last week was a big week for us. Danica ran really well. At best I'd seen her run on a 1.5 mile track, and was in contention for the lucky dog when she was involved in that wreck. And Tony and I both finished in the top 10, so that was good for us. It was a big step performance-wise, and I think that there are a lot of similarities on a computer and on paper between places like Charlotte and Dover. So looking forward to this week, and I think we've learned some things that we can apply this weekend.
You and Tony have both had success on this track. Do you think this is maybe a turnaround for Stuart Haas with the good
Well,
results?
it gives you the confidence to know that you have been victorious and you can succeed, and that doesn't mean you can come back and do it again. It just means you have the potential. But we feel like we're both in contention for a victory here. Just like I said, it's all about the race car. It's all about having the steam underneath the hood, and that car will be a top 5 car. The best engine car here will be a top 5 car. I can guarantee you that.
Danica talked about the team continuing to improve on the 1.5 miles as the season grows longer. You feel the same way?
Yeah, we've definitely improved. Our best intermediate, I think, performance-wise, not necessarily finish-wise, was California for us. I got a speeding penalty late and passed 14 cars in 10 laps there with 10 to go, and came from 24th to 10th. So we've had some success. We just haven't had success in the form of victory, and I feel like that we've learned a lot, especially with the new car. Just in general, it's been a learning process for all of us.
Is there a certain type of driver that you feel succeeds on a track like this?
The best one. No, I mean it's a challenging track. It's challenging not just for the driver, but it's challenging for the crew chief, and you have to have both of those people. I mean, a driver can carry a car and a crew chief can carry a driver at times, but this racetrack here, I think you have to have the best of both worlds.
What makes this track so different from any other track?
Look, it's got 3 distinct corners, 3 distinct bankings, 3 distinct angles, I guess, to complete the 360 degrees, and it's just unique, and it's a lot of fun as a driver, especially when your car's right. But you have the ability to kind of manipulate the corners here, and, not a lot, but a little bit, just in order to make it racier and give yourself the opportunity to pass, which is very difficult to do here.
Is there any information that you can take from another track previous that you've been to already this season?
The closest thing to anything at Pocono is Turn 2, and that's similar to Turns 1 and 3 at Indianapolis. Other than that, it's its own animal.
As far as the points are concerned, you're right around that 20 mark.
I think we're 16th right now, and I think we're 20 points out of 10th. So we've knocked down the margin on a good bit the last couple of weeks, and we needed to do that. So. Excuse me, we just hopefully we can keep that ball rolling, and I think that our test at Dover and again here at Pocono will pay off.
Talking about Dover, you've had success there in the past. What are your thoughts for this weekend?
This weekend at Dover, I think we've learned some things that we can apply from Charlotte to Dover that'll help us with the race car. Neither Tony or I, or any other driver for that matter, forget how to drive a racetrack. It's more a matter of adapting the race car to the racetrack and to your driving style, and I think that we had a good test there.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Real quick here. I mean, obviously you have a huge fan following, but you've kind of become the adopted son of the Pennsylvanians because of all the sprint car racing that you do here. Do you get that kind of feedback, like, hey, we're pulling for you because we see you at the local tracks?
Yeah, and reading some of the articles in the racing papers, there's a lot of people excited. We've been coming to Pennsylvania a lot this year and running our sprint cars, so it does kind of make it fun when we come here to Pocono. You kind of feel like it's that you're kind of with a group of people that increase that fan base.
You and Ryan, guys like Casey Ken, stuff with the open wheel background, in your travels around Pennsylvania, see some guys like, they could make it in the big leagues like we have.
Well, I don't just depends on which ones want to do it. But I mean, there's guys that are pretty happy doing what they're doing and at the levels they're running at. So that's why we go back and run with them, because what they're doing is fun. So it's fun to come here. I mean, some of the best sprint car racing in the country is here in Pennsylvania. So when you want to be a better sprint car driver, you come and race with the guys that you can learn from. So that's why we come up here so much.
This track being so different, if you're race guys have to make a lot of adjustments. Talk about what a crew and a driver has to do to be successful.
Well, we got to do what we're doing right now, and that's testing and logging data. These 2 days aren't necessarily about finding the perfect setup while we're here. It's more of trying to make changes and gather the data of what it does and why it does it, and then letting these guys go back to the shop. Really take the time to analyze everything that we gather these 2 days, and trying to figure out a great package for when we come back here, where when we come off the truck that we're close and fairly close to where we need to be.
I feel like this track plays to your strengths.
What are my strengths?
I mean, it's more traditional.
You have to acknowledge what my strengths are before I can tell you whether this track leads to using those.
This track warrants more traditional passing.
Yes.
Do you think it's something that will help you in this race?
I don't know. I mean, racing's racing. I mean, it's I don't know that this place is any different. The good thing is that with long straightaways like that, if you carry a little bit of momentum off the corner with long straightaways, it gives you a long opportunity to carry that momentum and get by guys. So this is a place where you got to get a lot done early, and then it seems like once things sort out a little bit, then guys' cars fall off as far as their setups, and then the second wave of passing comes along. So it's the restarts are always exciting here because it's such a wide racetrack that guys are fanning out, and guys are trying to cram in a corner that's 2 or 3 lanes wide, and we're 5 wide going down the straightaways, so it definitely makes it interesting.
Tony, blocking has been something that you've been concerned about the last couple of weeks. Is it going to be a problem here? Do you usually see it?
Oh, it always is. Guys are always changing lanes, trying to keep guys from passing, so you just going to have to start doing like they used to do in the old days. I mean, if you did that to Dale Sr., you just pick back your car up and turn you around, and while you were sitting there trying to figure out whether you could start it or not, it gave you plenty of time to figure out how you got there. So it just it's kind of disappointing. NASCAR doesn't seem to even put it on their radar of what's going on with it. But I watched the Indy 500 last weekend, and I watched the Indy Lights race on the last lap, and nobody blocked anybody, and the racing was great. So it'd just be nice to. I don't care how we do it. It's like if we're going to do it, then let's everybody know that everybody's going to block each other, or let's don't do it. But there seems to be split opinions on it, and some guys like it, some guys don't like it, and I don't care. I can adapt to whatever. So it's just tell us what we're doing. If we're blocking, let's block. If we're not, let's don't. So.
Stewart Haas has struggled coming into last weekend. You guys had a great week on it. Do you think it's time? It's about the time that you guys start turning things around. You're known for being a good summer guy.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the case with this scenario. I mean, we were very happy with the way last week ended up. We felt like we gained some momentum. Now it's taking the cars after we ran and trying to figure out exactly what it was that we liked about them, and trying to figure out the scientific reasons for why they did what they did. So definitely felt like it was a good weekend. Danica, if she didn't get caught in a wreck, she was having a solid night. So all 3 cars were having a solid night, and that makes you feel good as an organization. It's not just one guy got going. So hopefully we can build on that, and that's why we're here. I mean, that's the important part of being at Pocono this week, is to log more data and try to learn things so we can try to make ourselves better when we come back.
And you mentioned Danica. Last year you chose 10 tracks for her. This is called the Tricky Triangle. Why not choose Pocono?
We had reasons for the 10 that we had, and I'd have to look at them to point them all out of why, but I think she can figure this place out. She's not, it's a tricky track, but it's not one that I didn't think she was going to be able to adapt to. I mean, it's there's no curveballs that come with this racetrack. It's just different shaped. Now that it's been repaved, it's so much smoother. It's taken all those little tricky spots out on the racetrack that we had to learn earlier. So this was one that we felt comfortable that she was going to be all right at.
Is there anything that cautions you about the track today?
No. Is there anything cautioned you about the track today that I need to know about?
You're in the top 10 in points. What do you think has changed from years past to this year?
Well, this year with the new car, we've for whatever reason, and it's pure smart people working at the shop. We've had fast cars from day one testing last fall. We did a lot of testing last fall through the off season, and we've had good speed since day one. So this new car is, I don't know if it tends to my driving style or what the company does as a whole. As a company, we've been running better. Kevin's got a couple wins, and Jeff and I have been running better week to week. So I think the car is a big factor in our improvement, and I think a lot of that has to do with just being prepared through the off season.
You've been out on the track a couple times. It's been a service. Talk about the track now that it's got a year basically under its belt, and the Gen 6 car has changed.
The track's losing grip from last year. I was riding around earlier today when the track was wet, and I thought it was dry because last year that's what the track looked like. Once it's dried, it's a lot grayer than it was a year ago, which means you lost some grip. The Gen 6 car is faster though. It's got more grip, so lap times kind of equal out. We're running about the same speed as last year, and depending on what the weather does, we might break a track record, might not next week.
You've had success on Indianapolis. You got your win there. Can you take anything away from Indianapolis that you can kind of transition here? And how do you feel about Pocono as a whole?
Pocono's it's been a pretty good track. We've qualified on the front row a couple times here. Run good in the race. Obviously, win at Indy a couple years ago. It's about as similar as you can get to Pocono for two tracks that we race on. But what we did then is, the cars are totally different now. You can't do now. We're on totally different packages, but just the feel and the rhythm, and it's all about momentum. Giving up a little bit on entry to take a little bit more on exit and carry it down the straightaways. That's what it's all about.
This track warrants more traditional passing. You feel like that benefits you in this race?
More traditional passing, less side by side. I mean, more get a run on somebody, pull out and pass, not break them. It's kind of like a road course, really, where it's like I say, you give up a little bit on entry, but you might be able to downshift, let them get away from you, then try to drive underneath them, and it drives a lot like a road course and races a lot like a road course.
Talk about the importance of coming here and getting a feel for the track this early before the race starts.
Well, we years past, before we had this testing, limitations opened up for us. We'd do a Goodyear test or something, and that would be months before we actually come to the racetrack, which conditions are totally different and whatnot. So having a test the week before we come back to race, we'll learn a lot. We'll learn we actually learn setup things, where the gaps need to be for our bump stops. I think the conditions will be pretty similar next week. It's going to be kind of probably 70s, 80s, and pretty muggy. So I think what we learned this week we can translate a lot to next week.
Do you think RCR really has adapted well to this Gen 6 car? I mean, you and Kevin are both in the top 10. Jeff seems to be turning things around as well.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to what I said earlier. Is we from day one we hit off on this Gen 6 car. I feel like we've had good tests through the off season and had good speed, and it's something new, a clean slate for everybody, and we've done a pretty good job.
You've struggled a little bit this season. It looks like you're turning things around recently. What was the reason for the struggles? And why you
we've run a lot better than we are in points, and we've been in more wrecks this year than I can ever remember being in a single year. We've had 5 or 6 races where wrecks happened right in front of me, and I couldn't find a way through them, and that struck us down in points. And on top of that, we haven't run quite as well as we need to. So we haven't had a lot of luck. Been in situations that we typically aren't in, and then we haven't run quite as well. So that's why we are where we are. But the focus is just running better. With speed, you can make things happen, and we have started to turn the corner some, and we're definitely running better, but not quite like we need to be.
Your track was resurfaced last year, and now you're putting the Gen 6 car on it. What have you felt has changed? Has it gotten better or worse?
It's warm today. It's much warmer than normal here, and so the track to me feels like it's a little bit slick, but the car makes more grip than last year's car. So kind of a net, kind of washes itself out. But coming back next week, if the temperatures are cool, I would imagine that wouldn't surprise me to see a track record fall again. These cars have broken track records a lot. It wouldn't surprise me to do that again.
Why do you think RCR has done so well with the Gen 6? Kevin and Paul are both in the top 10 right now.
Well, I think that we've worked really hard. We've had a good game plan. We've changed a lot of stuff, and most of it's been positive. We've been good on reliability. Not many reliability issues, and all that stuff adds up.
As far as next weekend, is there anything that you could take into next weekend that you've learned on a track coming into this race?
If we come here and test for 2 days and don't take something out of here going into next weekend, we're going to be sorely disappointed. The reason we're here testing is specifically for this track. We feel like there are some things we can learn from here to take to other racetracks, but this track's so unique. We fully expect to learn something this week to be able to carry, and if we don't, we're going to be very disappointed.
Do you think that you can pull out a victory with anything that you've learned from here?
Well, we're early in this test. We've only run for a couple hours, so we have a lot more tests ahead of us than we have behind us. So we'll see when the week's over. But we certainly the reason we're here is testing is so we can come back here and win.
Talk about the importance of coming here and getting a feel for the track this early before the race even starts.
Well, I think it's for us to be able to be here this week and then come back next week. That's a unique situation. Typically, things don't work out that well, but they worked out in this situation. And I think for the drivers, the team, everybody, you should roll off the truck with a much better understanding of what the track is and where all the bump stops need to be set and what setups we're looking for. I definitely think that without a doubt we should be better by doing this than we will be if we didn't do it.
You're going into Dover and you've had some success there this weekend. How do you feel about your car and how do you feel about going into Dover?
Dover's a place that we always seem to roll well. It's one of those tracks that whenever we go there, we feel like we're going to run well. It's our record's always good there. We don't have a lot of wins, but we have a ton of top tens and always put ourselves in position. So it's a track I really like, and we fully expect to run well there.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chad.
Thanks, man. How's it going, Chad?
Yeah, I think as a company, this hasn't been a great results track for us in the past. So, it felt like with 2 races and cars, up continuing to get in the chase, it was probably a good idea to come here and try to get things squared away for here, and it'll give you a good read on some things you need to do at Indianapolis as well. So I think it's definitely a good choice of our test, and luckily the weather has cooperated. We like the warmer weather for sure. That'll give you a little bit better indication without having some cool temps and fooling yourself. So I'm glad it's warm today.
I was just going to ask you, why have you guys struggled here, do you think, at this track?
We went for a couple of years and I think finished 4th or 5th, 2 years in a row. So it's just one of those things where you go to racetracks and sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't. I feel like as the 2019 goes, I feel like any style of racetrack, we can win at on a given weekend if we put it all together. So it's just it's another track.
You won the 600 last week. Do you think you can carry that momentum into Dover and then eventually into Pocono?
Well, it's definitely a good time of year to have won a race, and obviously to win the Coke 600 is a huge feather in the cap for the team and everybody involved. So it's always good to win. I mean, these guys and everybody involved in it put in a lot of work on the cars and a lot of time away from home. So it's always important to try to get to victory lane to keep everybody enthused about what's going on, especially when you go straight from there to another test and then back to another race and then test again next week. So it's a busy time of year, and momentum is never a bad thing.
Did you take anything out of or learn anything in your first test this morning?
Just trying to get a direction of exactly what we want to do as far as our setups go. We've kind of narrowed it down to 2 or 3 different types of setups that we have run throughout the year. So you want to try to narrow that down as fast as you can. And then the second thing is just me getting in a rhythm of knowing exactly where I need to let off and the things I need to do, and try some different things to try to make your car do different things throughout the corner. So it's been good for them, but probably better for me to just get in a rhythm.
Do you like the track? I know you said you haven't done well here maybe as a group, but do you like coming here? Is this like a difficulty? You know?
I love coming here. Yeah, this is it's always fun to come up here because at this point in the year it's usually a lot cooler than everywhere else you go. This year hasn't really been that way, but you may get some rain every once in a while. But the weather's always nice. Obviously, they've made some huge upgrades with the facility and the things that they've done on the track and with the crash walls and the catch fences and now it seems like continuous upgrades with the facility outside of the racing surface. So it's fun to see that enthusiasm from the racetrack itself and to come up here, and it's kind of a relaxing weekend to just kind of enjoy the surroundings along with doing your job.
This is your final year, obviously, for Childress. You have talked about really want to kind of make this a year to remember, not only for you but for your race team. Just talk a little bit about the thinking that goes into that, and how it maybe affects your approach for the rest of this year.
Well, I think our main goal at the end of the year was everybody to look at Richard and myself and say, man, they handled that like professionals, and they did a great job for their sponsors and represented them and their fans and the team well, because the guys in the shop, they don't really care about the politics of the sport and the sponsorship and the things that happen behind the closed doors in the meetings. They just want to go to the racetrack and race, and that's really what we're doing right now is going to the racetrack and just racing and having fun. And honestly, we don't even really talk about it. It's a week-to-week battle. It's all set in stone as to what's going to happen at the end of the year, and you do the things that you have to do to try to run fast, because our egos are too big to run bad, and that's just not, it's not fun to go to the track. This is too much work to go to the track and struggle.
Talk a little bit too about the sport has always been high on emotion and stuff. It seems like this year there's been maybe a little bit more emotion that's spilled over onto the track. As a guy who's been around it for a while, what are your observations on that? Is it younger guys that just don't get it yet, or that they have to learn from older guys? What's
well, I've seen some older guys throwing punches as well, so I wouldn't narrow it down to just the younger guys. It's hard, and you put a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of times when those particular things happen, you've run all day and had a good day, and you feel like you've done everything you need to do to put yourself in position to have a top 5 or just a good solid day or a win or whatever it may be, and you get out and you're mad, and when you're mad at something, you guys can relate to it. You want to hit somebody or kick something or yell or scream or something to let some frustration out. So it's no different than everyday life when you get frustrated with something, and this is there's a lot of pressure on everybody that's driving the cars, working on the cars to perform, and there's always somebody waiting right there behind you that somebody's telling everybody else can do a better job, whether you're a driver, crew chief, spotter. Somebody's always wants to do better than you. So it's just the nature of the beast.
Kevin, the track was resurfaced last year. What have you noticed? Has it rubbered up with your few tests out there? What are you seeing with the track?
I mean, there's a definite, distinct groove of rubber already in just in a few laps that we've run. It's very narrow, and the track is definitely grayed up some from last year. But with the cars having more downforce and more grip, it really doesn't feel like it's lost any grip. But it definitely has, because we're running. I thought we would run a little bit faster than what we had today as a group with all the cars here. So it's definitely lost some grip, but that's what you want every racetrack to do. You want them all to lose grip, and so they've done a good job with the surface, and the way that they've prepared things is just good for the racing, and I think the races were fairly good last year, and I think they'll be good again this year.
We use our mics to settle differences.
Yeah.